Hello, Nickelodeon fans, and welcome to This Week in Nickelodeon History. We are covering all of the shows that started or ended on May 9th to May 15th. And what a week it is, for me at least, in terms of Nickelodeon. Right now, my office is in a bit of a kind of a mixed mode, if you will. It's not 100% complete because I'm going to be moving my office at some point this year. So I don't want to, fully invest time into building, how I want it to look when I just know in a few months I'm going to end up taking all this stuff down. But in the meantime, I started really consolidating my Nickelodeon collection down to, what I have. And for the first time ever, I've gotten to display it all in one area. I really wouldn't say that for the first time ever. I mean, I've always had room in space. God, if you were able to see my childhood basement room and how I turned that into a museum of Nickelodeon of sorts. But it's been a long time, and I've gotten rid of a lot of stuff from my old collection because for a while it seemed so scarce to find the old characters, growing up at like 18, 19, like they're not going to have that stuff new in stores. So, if you ever went to a tag sale or Goodwill and you see a classic Nickelodeon figurine or something like that, you pick it up. But now that I'm like 30, I'm a lot more picky on what I want in my house. And some of the old toys are cool. Like there's some things I have in my Nickelodeon collection that I'll just never get rid of, that I absolutely love. But there is a portion of it that I think I would just kind of get rid of. And even when it comes to just new items, I'm pretty picky. But I got that just kind of completed enough in my office to make it feel sustainable for the next few months. So I'm not in complete emptiness. I have some semblance of creativity and decoration and whatnot. And I actually was able to get actual frames for 2 movie posters. I got a Rugrats movie original theatrical poster and the SpongeBob movie promo poster for the original first movie, the teaser poster of like SpongeBob's feet and then his underwear and then his pants. I was able to get both of these in just complete mint condition from a gentleman in New York City, who is very gracious. We had a nice conversation about just movies. He had a great deal of posters and whatnot, and just through our just communication, seemed like a very nice gentleman. And I thought I got a very good deal on these posters. So Target eventually got in movie size poster frames that look like they belong to Target. Like they were fairly cheap, in my opinion, because the last time I remember looking at Target, they were outrageously priced. Where Amazon and Walmart were cheaper, but then had like worse frames. I don't know. I'm picky with that kind of stuff, but these frames, top notch. Highly recommend them for the price they are. So I was able to get those framed and sitting around, and man, it's one thing to have a movie poster rolled up, but when you can actually have it framed out and you can look at it, and to just have the original posters. My goal is to inevitably get every Nicktoon movie poster that I can get my hands on. I also have the Sponge on the Run movie poster, the original one, before it got moved, and then I don't know if any of those posters got printed when it originally, because it got postponed for a few months, and I know that they had posters online and changed the date, but I don't know if they sent out and like printed those posters out. So no, but I have like the original date Sponge on the Run movie poster. I just don't have a frame for it, but I will eventually get one. So all of that news led up to the announcement that on the CW, Legends of the Hidden Temple is being revived as a brand new rebooted competition for adults. You heard me right. So instead of taking children and putting them through both physical and knowledge-based challenges, they will be taking the kids who grew up watching the show, going through what I imagine is still going to be physical and knowledge-based challenges. Now, I have talked a massive game for a long time about how I would do on Legends of the Hidden Temple. And to be perfectly honest, it really comes down to the end part. It comes down to going through the actual temple that I become very cocky about. Simply because I know the temple design like the back of my hand. And, you know, when you watch kids, they get lost and they make mistakes that kids would make. And I'm very much an armchair driver in that regard. So I've just talked a big game. And, of course, one of the most frustrating challenges to watch is the Shrine of the Silver Monkey and putting that thing together and watching child after child just fail. And you go, do these kids not watch the show? Do they know how that monkey statue goes? So I've once again talked a massive game up about this show for so long, not even taking into account the challenges that come before that. I don't know how I would fare, but here's what's going to happen. I weighed myself today, and although I don't look, my weight number has nothing to do with the way I physically look. I physically look, you've seen me in videos. If you're on the YouTube channel, I have my G4 audition video out there. You can see my full body. I am a stocky fellow. I'm a bigger guy. I've got a bigger build. I'm definitely on the heavier side, but I'm definitely overweight. But I'm not morbidly obese, but my weight, like the number, is just crazy. But I also want to bring up that muscle weighs more than fat, and I am certainly, when it comes to weights, I am no slouch. I used to hit the gym a lot in high school, and also being a part of the backstage crew and drama club required a lot of heavy lifting, including massive amounts of pews that you have to lift and get off silently a stage within like 3 seconds. Big, massive double doors that have to get dragged out. Like I have a lot of muscle, but I am at 320 pounds. So it's a big number. But from this day forward, I am taking on a very strict diet and exercise regimen. I already walk a lot, but I'm going to increase the amount I'm walking, and I'm going to keep up my progress through this podcast. Now, the amount I've already talked about it is more than I plan to on future episodes, unless there is more to talk about. But from this day moving forward, I am going to lose the weight. I am going to gain even more muscle, and I am going to get physically and mentally prepared to challenge Olmec and the Hidden Temple the best I can. That is a promise. Now I have accountability, live accountability with anybody who listens to this podcast and anybody who cares about this progress. I have accountability with you. So I'm going to keep moving this forward. And there's not going to be any BS. If I happen to go up in weight, then I go up in weight, and I'm going to keep progress on things. If that means live updates on Twitter or Instagram and live weigh-ins, I don't care, whatever I have to do. But this is going to be my mission moving forward. Hopefully I can lose enough weight that by summertime we can start really shooting some live action projects around this, because I really want to put it out there. So this project, actually, I don't know if I mentioned it, it's going to the CW, which is really weird, by the way, that for Viacom, for them having Paramount Plus, for having Nickelodeon, for having MTV, for having Comedy Central, for having a lot of already adult-centric channels, for the CW of all places to pick this up. It's a business after all, and if the CW has this idea and presents it to Viacom and says, hey, we want to take this IP you have and we want to make a show about it, money talks. If they don't want to do it themselves and the CW wants to put it on, that's fair game. As far as the content of this show, Olmec is all but confirmed to come back. And I imagine that his original voice actor, D. Bradley Baker, would also love to come back as well. I'm checking just to be safe, but I think I've got it down anyway. But Olmec's all but confirmed, but they said it's going to be centered around adults. So I imagine people my age who, as I mentioned earlier, grew up with the original show, who get to go on and actually, maybe put their money where their mouth is, because I can't imagine I'm the only person who really stacked up and said, hey, I could probably do this. I could probably do this a lot better than any of the kids on that show. I mean, how many of you out there probably listening challenged those children or sat there on the couch or chair and laughed at their mistakes? D. Bradley Baker was the narrator and was Olmec there. He's got to come back. I imagine best case scenario for this show to be successful is you just take the exact show and you just have adults on. You might have to size the props up. You might have to size the different, the mini games, the main games where they have all the teams and then they, have the steps of knowledge. It's easy to still make steps light up and you can just ask trivia questions. It's still interesting for adults. You could just age up the questions a little bit more. Then you go down to the other physical challenges and you age everything up. And then when you get to the temple, you build an adult version of that temple. Or you don't. You keep the exact same size temple and you just have adults go through it. That's ultimately what I would really love, more than anything else, just to go through the original one, size included. But this is something that's going to be really, really interesting to see moving forward. It's something I've said for years. Some of these old shows still have great concepts that can still be done in 2021. Legends of the Hidden Temple, 110% can still work today as well as it did in the 90s. So I'm glad it's coming back. And for any of you that are going to join me on this journey, I appreciate it. And this is the perfect place for it to be on. It's Nickelodeon related and it's my show. But just like the namesake of this show, let us jump into this week in Nickelodeon history. I didn't mind being a little bit more long-winded about the Legends of the Hidden Temple and any of the other stuff because we don't have much to go through today. But we are going to be starting, surprisingly, 7 years ago on May 9th, 2014, the final episode of Brainsurge premiered on Nickelodeon. Brainsurge was a return to form for Nickelodeon because there was a long time that Nickelodeon didn't really have many game shows. They just kind of flat out stopped doing them. And Brainsurge kind of came out of nowhere, and I didn't really watch the show, but I was very much happy to see its existence. I was like, hey, I'm glad kids get to have a game show because game shows are fun to watch. I mean, they're, especially as a kid and growing up, I have fond memories about Double Dare, Legends of the Hidden Temple, Figure It Out. There was a lot of them. Guts, all of the different iterations of Double Dare that they had over the years. Nick Arcade, absolutely fond memories. So it should exist. It went 3 seasons, 120 episodes. It was created by Scott A. Stone and Clay Newbill. And the host of the show was Jeff Supfin. And if that name doesn't sound familiar, this other one should sound familiar. He is better known as Pick Boy. Pick Boy, who is a long-running live-action host uh, mascot, if you will, of Nickelodeon that Jeff has been playing since 2002. But yeah, he hosted Brainsurge here. It lasted a long time, 2009 all the way till 2014. So it really left its mark there. 14 years ago, on May 13th, 2007, the final episode of The Search for the Funniest Mom in America premiered on Nick at Night. Yeah, we actually dived into Nick at Night tonight. This ran for 3 seasons with roughly 18 episodes and was originally hosted by Sandra Bernhard, was then eventually hosted by Katie Segal, with the last batch of episodes hosted by Roseanne Barr. Each season had 10 female comedians, all mothers, competing to be named the funniest. The winner got $50,000 and the chance to host a special night of programming on the network. For the first 2 seasons, the prize also included the opportunity to develop her own show for Nick at Night. This was dropped for the 3rd season. No television series starring any of the winners has made it to air. I mean, come on, guys. That's just... do something. Why not? Unless the ratings for this show just were in the can and the excitement wasn't there. But what a promise to make. And I wonder how far in development they really got with that, or if it was just something that they just kind of told the audience, like that's a puff prize, and really, the end result is whoever wins, they just get cornered for like 10 minutes with an executive, and they're like, okay, come up with a show. You have 10 minutes. You can pitch whatever you want to me, and if anything isn't good within 10 minutes, I'm leaving, and that's it. And we've obligated our prize as seen in your contract. And they did that twice, and then just realized like they're wasting their time, and just gave it up for the 3rd one. The first season ran for 5 episodes during spring 2005. Darlene Westgore was declared the winner. The 2nd season aired for 6 episodes during spring 2006, and the winner was Ruby Nichols. And the 3rd season ran for 6 episodes, and the winner was Vicky Barbolak. So congratulations to the trio of funniest moms in America, ending its run 14 years ago. Now, I didn't need to wait till our emails later to mention the amount of emails I got. Now, it wasn't obviously like 100 of them, but I did receive emails from a few of you mentioning my blunder from last week, missing the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour and its anniversary last week. And it's an absolute massive mistake on my part. It's a massive mistake. My thought, honestly, as far as the show moving forward, one of the things is that I feel like with each and every year of This Week in Nickelodeon history, it's just going to get a bit more robust. I want to eventually add in, specific episodes and moments in Nickelodeon history, and really dive deep week after week. So we're in the first year. I'm going to make some mistakes. I apologize. But with the amount of shows we're going over today, I have no problem talking about the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour. 17 years ago. I'm just double checking. Yes. 17 years ago, May 7th, 2004, the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour premiered on Nickelodeon. I can't even begin to tell you how big of a deal this was if you were a kid at the time and a fan of both of these shows. This was a monumental moment, a moment that doesn't happen that very often in cartoons. And maybe now at this point in 2021, we can come up with a few times a big crossover has happened. But even by 2004, it wasn't anything that was considered normal. And it's one thing to have a crossover that's exciting. It's another thing when the two shows crossing over are of different animation styles and characters have to be animated in a different style. Like that's the most exciting part. Like when I think of the world's biggest, like most exciting crossovers, like some of the biggest, even as a kid, I remember was the Flintstones meets the Jetsons, the past meets the future, this big Hanna-Barbera movie event. But that's the thing, is that the fact that both of those shows were made by the same studio, they have very similar animation styles. Therefore, when the Flintstones meet the Jetsons, it's just exciting because the characters are meeting. The animation kind of stays the same, and I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like, it works for that movie. But when do we get this moment where characters get to go into each other's shows? It does not happen as often as I can think of. Cartoon Network has done a fairly good amount of really good crossovers in the last few years, especially the crossover Nexus special that I think was from OKKO. Absolutely wonderful special, and just the amount of nods to Cartoon Network's history is just absolutely fantastic. If you love Cartoon Network in any semblance, go and watch that special. But like that, you had characters come into that universe and all kind of be animated together. But this is the first thing that comes to mind, and the biggest one I can think of. And it works on all levels. It works. They found a way for this to mesh. Whoever was the first light bulb of these two shows working, like, kudos to you, madam or sir. But you deserve all the credit in the world because this works. The worlds of Jimmy Neutron and the Fairly Odd Parents inherently don't match up next to each other. One is a 2D animated show about a boy with magical fairies with seemingly infinite power held by a series of rules. And the other is a CGI show about a boy with the world's biggest brain and can invent anything. Those shows don't work together until the Timmy Turner figures out that, like, he can wish to go wherever he wants, and really he can wish to go into another universe. Which he does. He wishes to go to the best lab in this universe, or in another universe, or any universe, the greatest lab, and he gets transported into Jimmy Neutron's world, into Jimmy Neutron's lab. Unbeknownst to Jimmy, Timmy Turner also has a magical wand pen that, when is pressed, zaps him back to his room at a blink of an eye. It's his kind of defense mechanism out of getting out of uncomfortable situations. So Jimmy Neutron eventually takes this pen, thinking it's one of his micro lasers, and zaps himself to Timmy Turner's bedroom. Now, this is without Cosmo and Wanda knowing what's going on. They wish him to the lab, but they kind of just leave after that point. They know he's off on his own. And we are now on an adventure where Timmy Turner is in Retroville and Jimmy Neutron is in Dimsdale. And they found a really unique way to kind of get around some of the rules of each series, especially with the biggest one being Cosmo and Wanda. One of the rules of the Fairly Odd Parents world is that if anybody finds out about Timmy's fairies, they will take them away. Like, that's just the rule. You can't tell anybody you have magical fairies, or else you will lose your magical fairies. But the loophole here is that when Jimmy Neutron came across Cosmo and Wanda, it was almost their mistake. Timmy didn't say anything about them, and Jimmy Neutron's deduction of them is that they're computer programs. And when Timmy is even confronted with this information, just completely rolls with it, therefore negating any rules of him having to lose Cosmo and Wanda, and they get to freely be around Jimmy Neutron and his friends, which then helps out for future sequels and whatnot, to explain why Cosmo and Wanda can just hang out with all of these characters and still use their magic at free will, which definitely helps out when you're going to make sequels out of this, which is exactly what they did. There were 2 more sequels, an entire trilogy of Jimmy Timmy Power Hours, each one featuring new characters that would get animated into the other's world. Now, the second one just blew everything out of the water. The first movie pretty much just had Jimmy and Timmy in each other's worlds, although we did get Goddard in a pseudo Fairly Odd Parents style, but like also this kind of 3D image. And I don't think we got anyone else in Jimmy's world. But the second movie, not only did Cosmo and Wanda get to go to Retroville, but also Jorgen von Strangle got to get the CG treatment. But all of Jimmy's friends, Cindy, Carl, Sheen, Libby, and Professor Calamitous, got to go to the world of Dimsdale, the Fairly Odd Parents. A lot of the movies feature a lot more of the Fairly Odd Parents animation than the Jimmy Neutron animation, but that was the one that was always the best. I thought it was way more exciting to see the 2D characters in the Jimmy Neutron style. Like, I wish they did more. I wish we got to see Vicky and Timmy and Timmy's parents, and even characters like Francis, and I don't know. I could go on. Like the Crimson Chin in Jimmy Neutron's world would be awesome to see. Now, to round out the mentions of the crossover, in Jimmy Timmy 3, Chester and AJ, Timmy Turner's friends, made it over to Retroville for a short scene and got the CG treatment. A little bit of an underwhelming one, too. And for first off, AJ was wearing a spacesuit throughout the entire episode, and therefore, when he came over to Retroville, was not wearing his normal clothing, was wearing this weird like spacesuit, and was delusional throughout the entire episode. And Chester just didn't really turn out that well in 3D. It was definitely off. We eventually got a bunch of Retroville characters in a pseudo. They were drawn in the Fairly Odd Parents style, but it was during this scene that was like a mixture of the two universes, the 2.5D universe. So they were two-dimensional characters that ended up having three-dimensional depth, although they were just drawn like the Fairly Odd Parents style. So we got Mrs. Fowl. I believe we got Jimmy's parents in the Fairly Odd Parents style. The third movie is definitely a bit underwhelming after the first two, and it definitely was. It was rushed. It had to have been rushed, because I remember the second movie coming out in February, and then already in July of that year they had the third one ready to go. They knew that these things were ratings juggernauts, so they just went all in on these Jimmy Timmy Power Hours. We'll definitely catch more of. We'll talk more about these as they come out, but to talk more about the first one, I absolutely love it. It still holds up. It's a wonderful story that they tell here, and they found a really interesting way for both characters to work in each other's worlds. It's just as exciting to watch now as it was when it first came out. It fits in the canon of both shows, and it doesn't jump the shark. It isn't weird. It just works. You accept it. As long as you're a fan of both shows, you can fully accept it. No problem, without any issues. And we end today's episode with 19 years ago, on May 11th, 2002. The show Taina finished up its run. Created by Maria Perez Brown, Taina lasted 2 seasons with 26 episodes. It was starring Christina Vidal, and was a show about a character named Taina who wanted to be a singer. She wanted to be an actress. She wanted her name in lights. She wanted to be a celebrity. And it was a taped kind of teen, sitcom. And I caught a few episodes as a kid. I don't want to necessarily say I hated it or disliked it. It was definitely I was not the age for it. I was not the appropriate audience to watch it, so therefore I didn't watch it that often. But it seemed like a good show, and hey, 2 seasons is a good run, and I know it still runs in and off of Teen Nick once in a while, so I'm sure even people have watched it now, and it's on Paramount Plus, so definitely check it out. 26 episodes is a breeze to get through if you're somebody who enjoys sitcoms. And that is this week in Nickelodeon history. Thank you to everybody who checks this out. Please, if you are a fan of the show in any way, shape, or form, just a fan of this part, or a fan of the Squarecast, or a fan of my work, do what you can to help out the show in any way, shape, or form. It could be sharing a link on social media. It could just be finding us on Twitter and just letting me know what you think. That's right. You can send me emails and I will answer questions here about Nickelodeon's history, my personal tastes, anything you would like to know or have me talk about. You can reach me at snailmail@euphonics.com, UFONYX. Snailmail@euphonics.com. Send me anything there, Nickelodeon related. And if you send me anything SpongeBob related, I may end up reading that over on the Squarecast. So definitely keep an ear out for the SpongePod Squarecast if you are a fan of SpongeBob, and send anything from email wise over to there. But thank you for joining me this week. Thank you for being a part of my weekly routine here with This Week in Nickelodeon History. Take care, stay safe, be true to yourself, and keep an eye out for those around you. We'll see you here next week on This Week in Nickelodeon History.
On the Lord Hut, here hut, Nick. On the Lord Hut, here hut, Nick, Nick. On the Ricky Ticky Low, while living #1 Nickelodeon.